Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to St Peter's Players' virtual Christmas show. We haven't been able to perform any of our usual shows in Wolvercote Village Hall this year. We know you've missed seeing us as much as we've missed seeing you. And that was why we created our virtual supper show back in July, which was very well received. More recently, we were rehearsing some items that we hoped to present outdoors in place of our usual pantomime. But sadly, Tier 2 and the second lockdown put paid to that. So, sit back and enjoy our second virtual show, a compilation of pieces from previous repertoire and even some new material, all skillfully stitched together by our IT wizard David. And watch out for further updates in the new year. You never know what might pop up.
tell you again, Grace, how important it is to give everyone a chance. Here's what I do. I always start with Mary and tell them we must choose Mary carefully because Mary was the mother of Jesus. Yes, and then I tell them about Joseph, about how he was God's choice to be Jesus' father. That's how I explain that. Frankly, I don't ever spend much time on Joseph because it's always Elmer Hopkins, and he knows all about Mary and Joseph. But I do explain about the wise men and the shepherds, and how important they are. And I tell them there are no small parts, only small actors. Remind the angel choir not to stare at the audience, and don't let them wear earrings and things like that. And don't let them wear clunky shoes or high heels. I just hope you don't have too many baby angels, Grace, because they'll be your biggest problem. You'll have to get someone to push the baby angels on, otherwise they get in each other's way and bend their wings. Bob could do that, and he could keep an eye on the shepherds too. Oh, another thing about the angel choir. Don't let them wear lipstick. They think because it's a play, they have to wear lipstick, and it looks terrible. So tell them. And Grace, don't use just anybody's baby for Jesus. Get a quiet one. Better yet, get two if you can. Then if one turns out to be fussy, well, you can always switch them.
sing them out in the song with me when they come up? Will you do that? Great! Should we have a practice? After 3, shout out Johnny and Ginny. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Johnny and Ginny. Oh, you can do better than that. Come on, 1, 2, 3. Johnny and Ginny. Brilliant. Now, when I wave my arms, you sing their names. We could keep each other company. Johnny and Ginny, stay with me. I'll feed you each and every day. Johnny and Ginny, stay, you'll stay. Don't leave me little mice. Having friends like you has been extremely nice. Though you can't sleep, I can understand you when you sleep. Company, Johnny and Ginny, stay with me. I'll feed you each and every day. Johnny and Ginny, stay, you'll stay. Christmas I should have sent to me. 8 minutes in the creek, 7 swans to swim in, 6 geese to lay, 5 gold rings, 4 bullocks, 3 French hens, 2 hippos, and a partridge in a pear tree. Day of Christmas my true love sent to me. 9 ladies dancing, 8 painted, 7 swans to swim, 6 geese to lay, 5 gold rings, 3 French hens, 2 hippos, partridge in a pear tree. And a partridge in a pear tree. Oh, we nearly there. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me. 11 pipers piping, 10 lords a leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 gold rings, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me. 12 drummers drumming, 11 pipers piping, 10 lords a leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 gold rings, 4 bullocks, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
I got forced into a key change halfway through and was having to do harmony exercises in my head.
Rough and ready. Shall we leave now?
Lovely.
The ABC of 2020. Amazon. Black Lives Matter. Coronavirus. Deal or no deal? Eat out to help out. Furlough. Global pandemic. Hand wash. Israel. Joe Biden. Clap for the NHS. I know clap begins with C, but I didn't have anything for K and I'm dyslexic. Lockdown. Migrants. No Eurovision, or any other major event actually. Online order. PPE. Quarantine. Rule of 6. Social distance. Trade war. US election. Vaccine. Work from home. Expletive. You're on mute. Zoom. What a year. And no panto. But remember a key message. 2020, it's behind you.
You right?
midnight. There's a strangest feeling in the air tonight. Something going on, but I can make it out. Wonder what it's all about. Starlight breaking through the darkness in the dead of night illuminates the path that takes you out of sight. We're all the way to Bethlehem. Tonight events are planned in heaven, the greatest story ever penned. Heaven and earth have come together, and life has come to Bethlehem. Angels taking care of things as though can only do, are waiting in the wings to bring the joyful news. It's gonna turn the world around. Strangers having made arrangements for a night or two, have found accommodation in the crowded room. The house is packed in Bethlehem. Tonight events are planned in heaven, the greatest story ever penned. Heaven and earth have come together, and life has come to Bethlehem. Life has come to Bethlehem. Shepherds minding their own business, looking after things, frightened by the unexpected happenings, as angel choirs appear to them. Wise men taking charts and telescopes and compasses, and then to get the film that takes some traveling until they come to Bethlehem. Tonight events are planned in heaven, the greatest story ever penned. Heaven and earth have come together, and life has come to Bethlehem. And life has come to Bethlehem. And life has come to Bethlehem. Nearly. Nearly.
Hey!
Spirit, conduct me home. Show me no more. There.
One shadow more. The time has passed and 3 years have gone by, and it is Christmas Eve.
I remember it.
Yo-ho, boys! Christmas Eve! No more work today. Christmas Eve, Ebenezer. Christmas Eve, Dick. Come, let's clear away. Let's have into your crew. Hey-ho, Dick. Cheer up, Ebenezer. Hurry up, hurry up. I can hear them coming. Let's have it snug and warm and as bright as a ballroom. Oh, there you are. Just in time as usual. Very the festive spirit too, I see.
And a Merry Christmas to you, one and all. And now let us all join. Now let us all join in drinking a glass of my own special punch.
It's toast, let's drink to Mr. Featherweight, best employee we ever have. And to Mrs. Featherweight.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now, 'tis time the music began. What's happened to the fiddler?
Here I am, Mr. Fezziwig.
Oh, well, you're a doleful fiddler for such a gay occasion. Here, let's liven you up with a glass of punch. Down you run, That's all right. Now, it's time for Mrs. Maisie Big and I to start the dancing. I can feel the festive spirit at my feet already.
To be sure, to be sure. House
There's cold roast.
And cold boiled. Okay. And more pies.
Well, plenty of beer. Come, let's go.
Everyone, I'd like to introduce 2 new members to our illustrious band. Might I introduce the first, Will Scarlett, a balladeer whose last performance caused such an outrage he was locked up in the castle dungeon.
It's the wine! I was drugged. My voice will never be the same again.
Anyway, welcome to show, our palatial home. And may I introduce none other than the fair Maid Marian's aunt, Mistress Effie.
Where's she got to?
Did you left over behind, little John?
She's rocking about the Bisbee Road here, but she certainly arrived with us.
Oh,
Oh!
oh, here she comes.
Oh! How are you? Oh. Look at me, look! I shall never be the same again. You could get a number 6 bus through there. Oh! You'll soon get used to riding a horse. You got to return to your Nottingham in the morning. Oh no! If I've got to get back to Nottingham, I'm not going on a horse. I'll start walking now.
There's no need for that, there are other ways to travel.
Yeah, send it back in a hay cart.
Young man, if I'm going to be thrown in a hay cart, I'd like a bit more notice.
Please, everyone, after today, I'm sure what we can all agree with is that all we need is a decent meal. Am I right?
Yes.
And let's have a song from our newest recruit, why not?
Yes, something lively to keep the spirits up. Oh, talking of spirits, I think I need another drink.
Well, I usually write my songs about events as they happen, but I think what we have been through makes for a very merry tune.
There must be something you can sing about.
What about all of us?
You don't know us, darling.
No, but I observe in my songs that all I see and hear, and we are all wearing a very similar colour of clothing.
I suppose we are.
And we are all dressed pretty much alike.
I suppose we are. All serviceable wear made for us by our good ladies.
Pretty good, don't you think?
Fezziwig's mince pies, lovely Fezziwig's mince pies, full of lovely mince and other stuff. Buy your Fezziwig's mince pies from wherever you buy your Fezziwig's mince pies.
Oh, sing us. I have no king. That's it to give the king Shall I play for you? On my drum. Mary, dear of the pom-pom. Be of I played my drum I played my best for him Then he me and my drum. Me and my drum. We finished drum. Isn't that where Ravel got his idea from the bolero? I did a trick of it.
What's all that noise about? I thought somebody was being murdered.
Yes, there will be.
Ah, Captain, has Craig given you instructions for today's sailing?
I'm just ready to find out, girl. I got called away. He'd be right here. There he goes. What are we doing that for? He hopped it. Mystery barnacles. You mean you let it go away? It wasn't my fault.
He tricked us!
Frankie Flopson, you clot! How can anybody be so stupid?
Oh, look who I'm talking to. We're all been croaked on. What we're going to do now?
We mustn't give up, Captain. We must find Atlantis, and we must find Claire.
Oh, wow!
No! There he
You really never swore.
Wait, Captain. Why have you come back?
I've got a message for you from my mistress.
The sorceress. You've seen her.
Yes, I could never betray her. She's known me ever since I was a tadpole. So that I told her about your plans and she wasn't very happy. She's
what?
She's on her way here right now to stop you!
intend on finding Atlantis and rescuing the girl, do you?
Yes, and we will.
I think not.
What are we going to do to stop us?
You are much nearer to Atlantis and the girl than you think. In fact, they are beneath this very vessel. But you will never see either of them. For I intend to destroy this ship and all on board! O forces of nature, I summon thee! Bring forth the storm to boil the sea! Make waves as big as mountains rise! This ship I want to pulverize and sink into the deepest seabed and make sure these fools are well and truly dead!
They do say that Christmas is a good time for telling ghost stories. Is this a ghost story? I think you will have to judge for yourself when you've heard it. So listen now to the celebration of old Aunt Wynne. Alan Parker always retired to the living room earlier than the other guests on this particular night, just to make sure everything was in its proper place for this special occasion. There was a roaring fire in the grate, keeping the sharp winter weather at bay. A tray of glasses with port and sherry decanters for the all-important toast. Enough chairs for the whole gathering, and most important of all, the great portrait of Aunt Wynne above the fireplace. Alan smiled up at her. He'd always loved that picture, although the old lady had died long before he was born. It showed her seated in the great chair by the fire, a dignified and stately woman in her 60s, with white hair and a slight smile on her face. In her lap, beneath her hand, was the family Bible, which still resided in a glass cabinet in that very room. The book was shown open, and a pen lay on a small table nearby. Family legend said that she was writing the name of her newborn grandson on the flyleaf, as the name of every eldest Parker of the line had been written there since. The sound of voices came from behind him, and with a slight nod in the direction of the picture, Alan turned to greet his family. They all came in the sort of mood which only a rich and sumptuous meal can produce, chattering and laughing happily. All except Gerald, Alan thought. The current eldest son of the Parker family had been rather withdrawn and thoughtful all evening. Alan had never been close to his brother, but in recent weeks he found him even more secretive than usual. He shrugged and started pouring drinks, which his wife Sarah handed round the assembly until everyone had one. Alan glanced again at Gerald, but his brother seemed wrapped up in his own thoughts. It should have been the eldest who proposed the toast, but ever since Gerald had moved out of the family home some years before and left it to Alan, he had always had to perform the honours. He raised his glass. "Now then, everyone," he began, "we come to the main part of this evening. Some of the younger members of the family haven't been to one of these gatherings before, so you'll forgive me if I give a little history." Some of the older ones present groaned, but took it in good part. Alan went on to describe the founding of the family business over 150 years earlier by Joshua Parker, who promptly died, leaving his young wife with a small son and no income, unless she could keep the business going. He told of Wynne's great struggles through years of poverty and near ruin, until by sheer willpower and skill she had built the firm into a major success, which she could hand on to her family after her. Each eldest son had taken over the business since then, with other family members on the board, right down to the present day. And so, he concluded, it was Joshua's grandson, Philip, who started the family tradition of toasting the memory of his grandmother each year at this Christmas gathering. And since the family has grown far beyond the original Parker line, she is known to us all as Aunt Wynne. He turned to raise his glass to the pitcher, only to find Gerald standing, his glass already drained, in front of the fireplace. "Thank you, Alan," he said abruptly, "but I don't think we need play out the family charade this time. I have an important announcement to make to all of you." Alan lowered his glass and looked steadily at his brother. Gerald seemed to veer away from his gaze, fixing his eyes somewhere in the far corner of the room. "There's no point beating about the bush," said Gerald. "With effect from Monday next, Parker Enterprises will be owned wholly by the Sumitomo Company of Japan. I will be going directly from here to catch the late flight to Tokyo to sign the final papers. In view of this, there doesn't seem much point in making the toast, does there?" There was a stunned silence in the room, then a babble of protest and anger. Gerald overrode it all with his bellowing voice. "There's nothing you can do. I am the majority shareholder, and the sale will take place." "And how much will you make out of it?" said Alan quietly. "Enough to cover all those debts you've been running up? The rest of the family may not have been aware of it, but I keep the accounts, remember. I could see the signs. The price is my business and no one else's. Now I've made my announcement and that's it. I'm leaving." He strode from the room. As the rest of the family burst into renewed argument, Alan followed his brother and caught up with him by the front door. "Gerald, how could you do this? Doesn't the memory of Aunt Wynne mean anything to you? This family has kept the firm going all these years, and you're just going to throw it away." "The decision's made, Alan," said Gerald as he opened the door. "And to answer your question, I'm sick of the memory of that old woman dominating everything. I couldn't stand living here because I couldn't get away from that picture, and now I'm making the final break. I don't care about Parker Enterprises, and I don't care about Aunt Wynne." He slammed the door and was gone. It was during the early hours, after the family members had departed in confusion, that the policeman came. Gerald's car had gone off the road on a tight bend, going much too fast for the icy conditions. Had he been drinking this evening? He had. Well, it was very regrettable. Yes, it must have been very quick. Would Alan come to the local hospital in the morning and identify the body? Then he was gone. And Alan stood in the living room, looking up at Aunt Wynne's portrait again. For several minutes his mind was full of the events of the evening. Then suddenly his thoughts turned to the picture itself. Something was different. He stepped closer, trying to see what had changed. Then he realized that the pen was no longer on the table, but in Aunt Wynne's hand. In sudden fear, Alan turned to the glass case and took out the old Bible. His hands shook as he turned the cover and looked down the list of names on the flyleaf. With a cold shock, he came to Gerald's name, crossed through with vicious strokes, and his own below it, written in the same spidery hand as young Philip's name over a century before.
Hush, there's a baby, ooh, ah.
lovely sound. Shout with the shepherds, tell what we found. Worship with the wise men, bow right down. 'Cause Jesus is born and he's such good news. We're gonna hush. Shh. There's a baby, ooh, ah, in a manger, hush. Shh. Baby Jesus, ooh, ah, there's a danger that will wake this sleepy boy. He's such good news, we'll jump with joy. We're gonna sing with the angels, heavenly sound. Shout with the shepherds, tell what we found. Worship with the wise men, bow right down. Jesus is born and he's such good news. We're gonna shout, sing, worship the King. We're gonna shout, sing, worship the King. Shout, sing, and worship the King. 'Cause Jesus is born and he's such good news. We're gonna shh.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma, in her kerchief, and I, in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon, on the breast of the new fallen snow, gave lustre of midday to the objects below, when what to my wandering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen. On Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the winter hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with their sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was white as the snow. The stump of his pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly elf, and he laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, and then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and gave a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they flew, like the dawn of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Oh, what are you doing? Oh, so sorry. What are you doing? I thought I was on my own. Oh, I'm sorry. Whatever you were doing, it was quite funny. It was dancing. Oh, dancing. Well, I'm hopeless at dancing, but I've got to go to this fancy dress ball, so I thought I'd better learn. Do-it-yourself dancing lessons. Float across the floor with grace. Who's Grace? I love dancing. You don't, you? So silly. Foxtrots, fandangos, slow, slow, quick, quick, slow. Oh, no, it's not. I'll teach you the funky monkey if you like. That's the latest craze. Would you? Would you really? Of course. Come on, I'll be your Grace. You let your arms hang down. You pull a funny face. You bend your knees and jump all over the place. Monkey, 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 monkey.
Morning, cat morning.
Hello, come in. Sit down. If you want a nice Christmas poem to sort you out. This is the tale of the Christmas tree fairy. I'm going to give it a go, and I hope my accent hangs on. The tale of the Christmas tree fairy. I'll tell you an old Christmas story as we sit round the log fire at night, why each Christmas tree has a fairy on top and why Santa's beard is so white. It happened one winter in England on a dark Christmas Eve long ago. There was Santa out doing his rounds and playing on sledge in snow. He were taking alt presents to houses, and then when that first job were done, he went round once again with his fairies, putting Christmas trees in every one. Now just when he thought he might finish, and last houses were almost in sight, he went to fetch more trees off toboggan, and he found he were just 4 trees light. This discovery quite upset Santa, so he gave to his reindeer a shout, "Whoop!" and he sent for his Christmas tree fairy to chastise her for leaving them out. By gum, thou's a daft little fairy. Thou's as daft as a fairy could be. When thou packed up t' sledge in this evening, thou must have missed off some o' trees. Oh, bugger, replied little fairy, which were really quite unfairy-like. I'll have to go back to the factory. And with that she jumped on her bike. Hold on just a minute, cried Santa. There's a way that won't let you forget. Fetch 1 tree for each of your fingers, on't right hand, and you'll get it right yet. Then off like a shot went our fairy, much faster than light from the sun, 'cause Einstein hadn't been invented, so she wasn't to know it weren't done. Now if you could have watched little fairy, there were trouble to come, you could tell, for when she was counting her fingers, she counted her thumb as well. Now Santa, he'd waited for hours, till his patience were running quite dry, till at last he saw t' fairy peddling for all she were worth through t' sky. But then as the fairy got nearer, Santa's anger, it grew more and more. He could see from the load she was bearing that she'd fetched him 5 trees, not 4. Then Santa got redder and redder, started roaring with all of his might, till the glow from his nose outshone Rudolph, and with his beard it began to turn white. Why, thou's stupid, he yelled at the fairy. Thou's 4 times as thick as I'd thought. Now go and put trees in the last houses, and as soon as thou's finished, report. So straight away off went our fairy, and as soon as she'd finished last place, she brought 5th tree back to Santa and waved it in front of his face. Whatever shall I do with this one? Our innocent fairy inquired. So Santa, he upped and he told her, 'cause by now he were feeling right tired. The fairy, she looked up at Santa, and her face, it turned a mite red. But then, like the good little fairy she was, she went and she did as he said. So now, at the end of my story, you'll see why to this very night each Christmas tree has a fairy on top, and old Santa's beard is quite white. The moral, if ever you want one, is simply when doing your sums, if you really must count on your fingers, don't forget to remember your thumbs. Happy Christmas.
Behind you.
Lord